Okay, it's October the 15th. I took a video earlier in the day, a few hours ago, to show the configuration of what the orbs take in the daytime, and this is at nighttime. One thing I want to say about the nighttime thing, the length of those strips is different than the last time. I think it was yesterday and the day before. Then I skipped a day, and then the day before that I took videos at night, and every time the length of those strips was different. And I think those strips represent some sort of signals out to space, because that's a huge tall building, over 100 stories, and every single night those strips are different. So tonight's no exception, and I just wanted to show that at night it's different, kind of a configuration than what it is in the daytime. And today I had a fairly clear day where I could show in super high definition the building and the orbs, and the way they were making a configuration and where they were, both on top of the building, on top, just below the top where they made the configuration as a signal, and then all along the building itself where they were clustered into places such as windows and all over the rest of the building, either in clusters or groups of clusters. Therefore, I mentioned what that meant and how that affected the people inside the building, and what these things can do to your mind when they're in such high concentrations, because they control electromagnetic fields, and they can control electromagnetic fields both in your brain and all around you if they're close to you, and therefore that affects the way you see the world, because they can put ideas in your head and representations in your head of what you're seeing, how you're feeling, and things like that. And that means that they can make the world look like what you expect to see it like, rather than what the world really looks like and what it is. And that's serious, and it's very important, because you should see the world for what it is, for what it really is, rather than them putting ideas in your head and thoughts in your head and representations of the world in your head that aren't really there. It's like looking at an illusion and believing in one, because what you think you see doesn't really exist. It's just something they made up and created for you, because you expected to see what they gave you as a representation. Okay, so tonight this thing looks different. Okay, the lengths are different, everything is different. And I mentioned the other night that the relationship between those strands or strips, how close they are, how long they are, what kind of signals they can give, and things like that, like whether they're giving out just normal visible light or ultraviolet and invisible light kind of signals, or whether or not they're resonating with electromagnetic frequencies and sending out either pulses or radio waves or some sort of signal like that, or something even more strange that we're not aware of. They could be sending out all sorts of signals, 1,001 different ways. So they control energy, and they're able to send all kinds of signals out. Signals we've never even, knew existed, and we don't know that they exist. But these things are very intelligent, and they know. Someone mentioned what about the red lights on top? The red lights on top are for airplanes, but the thing about the red lights on top is they're, run by electricity, and orbs love electricity because they get power from electric sources, no matter what kind they are, for free. So what they do is they swarm around them and cluster around them. So those lights don't actually look as they appear. Okay? They have lots of orbs around them, and that's the whole point. The orbs are charging off of them. So the kind of light you see there, the red lights, don't actually look like that, because what you're seeing is a lot of orbs clustered around the actual lights. So that's the story about the red lights. They're there, but you're not seeing them as they are. You're seeing orb clusters all around them because they're charging off of them and off the electricity that they receive to run. So orbs steal electricity every place they can, including lights. So that's the story about that. But the strips tonight are different than every other night I show them, and they've been different each night that I show them. And if you go back and check the videos, you'll see that the lengths are different of the strands, and the strands look different, and everything about the whole thing is different. Okay, they could be minor variations or major variations. It depends on the night. Okay, tonight I can see that over here on the left side, these things, you can't see the orbs, first of all. That's one observation I can make about that. Over here, the short ones are shorter than the last time, and there wasn't as many of those middle-sized ones, and the long ones were more even than they are right now. Okay, so they're different every night. The setup is totally different. And down here, okay, the amount of orbs that glow is different. But the entire building is always covered in orbs. Okay, no matter what night it is. Okay, the last time this whole thing was really shiny like this. Okay, but now only part of it is. So that's a lot of changes, and altogether that's a signal, and that whole building is a signal. Okay, it's not just the top, it's everything on that whole building, because there are orbs all over it. So whatever way they're set up, for the night, like whatever way this whole thing looks like, it's visible from space, and therefore, it's a signal because it varies every night. That's why I believe it's a signal. Okay, if it was not a signal, it would just stay the same every night. But since it varies every night and varies dramatically, I believe it's a signal out into space, because that building is big enough to see from space with all those lights glowing all over it. And who knows, maybe they're able to see even the orbs that don't glow, because they could be giving off other signals like radio waves or microwaves or X-rays even, because they can give off X-rays and all kinds of waves. Okay, and they can even send particles because orbs are able to particularize themselves, and that's one way they go invisible, by turning into particles. It's too small to see. Okay, so they become invisible, turning to particles, and then they cluster up into an orb. And that's why the orb is a cluster, because it's made out of all those particles. Okay, so each orb is a cluster because of that. Okay, so look at it one more time for tonight, and I'm going to make this one long, because this is just proof that it's different every night. And I did it earlier, a few hours ago, when it was light out. And you'll see that even the day signal is slightly different. It looks the same at first glance as it was the last time I shot it in the daytime. But if you take a closer look, there are minor differences, but those minor differences can mean a big deal, because it's all about the number of orbs and their configuration and the kind of signal they send out. Okay, even one orb difference makes a big difference in what the signals mean. So that's why I'm keeping track of what the signals are, to see what the differences are that they're making, and trying to figure out what the signals are all about. Okay, because if they didn't need to send signals into space, then they wouldn't be doing it. So there must be a reason they're doing it, and sending them into space, you know, that's important. Otherwise, why bother? So, okay, that's about it for tonight. Take a close look at these. Okay, I already mentioned why the red lights are different than what they should look like, is because the orbs cluster around them and get power from the electricity that runs in through them. Okay, they cluster around every light, even light poles, lights, and even lights in your home. You just can't see them doing it. Okay, so you know, you can tell that there's a lot of orbs in the air, just all over, and they're all over the building. Okay, that's just behind the strips, and this is above the strips. They're all over the building. Okay, you can't even see the building actually, because of so many orbs in the air. Okay, the orbs are all over in the air, and the building is absolutely invisible. Okay, there should be a part of the building there, because that's that tip that goes up, and there's nothing. That's how many orbs are in the air. There's so many, they're blocking the view altogether. And that building is over 100 stories. Here's how big it is next to the rest of them downtown. And those are all huge buildings. Okay, all those buildings are about 100 stories, and the other building just towers right over them. And that's how big that one is. Okay, that's it. Thank you. This is Super Mush Mouse. Have a good night.